Centuries ago, amidst the fog of revolution and the thirst for independence, our founding fathers found solace in the warm embrace of coffee houses. These establishments were not just places for a hot brew. They became crucibles of free speech, where groundbreaking ideas were brewed, stirred, and served. In those hallowed halls, notions of democracy, liberty, and justice were not just idle chatter. They were debated with passion, shaped with precision, and forged into foundations of our great nation. Today, as we find ourselves amidst a whirlwind of social change, political divides, and pressing challenges, we need to rekindle that spirit. In these spaces, we can confront the most consequential social issues of our time, not as adversaries, but as allies in the quest for understanding and solutions. To the coffee houses willing to join this mission, let your doors be wide open, your atmosphere inviting, and your tables a meeting ground for diverse voices. In the spirit of unity, dialogue, and progress, let's come together and meet on the Coffeehouse Tour. Here's to the future brewed in the past.
Hello, everyone. I'm J.R. Larson, and today we are at Dreamshot Films in Fairfax, Virginia, in the shadows of Washington, D.C. The Coffeehouse Tour is a community conversation. Our objective is to get people to talk together about the most consequential social issues our country faces today and consider bold solutions. These are conversations powered by citizens of all ages, social and economic statuses, different backgrounds and beliefs. Our goal is to bring you the constant variety of social topics and opinions in a timely and unbiased manner. On our program today, we will tackle the subject of drug addiction. Drug addiction is a complex issue that poses significant challenges to individuals, families, and societies worldwide. The top social questions related to drug addiction often focus on prevention, treatment, and the societal response to addiction. Addressing these questions requires a comprehensive understanding of the biological, psychological, social, and economic factors that contribute to addiction. These questions highlight the need for a multifaceted approach to drug addiction that includes prevention, treatment, and societal support. Addressing drug addiction effectively requires collaborative actions across healthcare, social services, education, and the criminal justice system, as well as a shift towards policies and practices that prioritize health and well-being over punishment. Today, we're going to break this subject down into three areas. How can drug addiction be effectively prevented? What are the most effective treatments for drug addiction? And how can society reduce the stigma and improve the reintegration of individuals recovering from addictions? Let's meet today's panel. Please welcome Shalon Lozelle. Shalon is a proud mother of three. Shalon has worked as a registered nurse for 23 years. She holds associate and bachelor's degrees in nursing, as well as a master's degree in business administration. Shalon is an actor, model, published writer, YouTube podcaster, and now a veteran guest commentator on the Coffeehouse Tour. Welcome, Shalon. Welcome back. And please do welcome back Jason Thompson. Jason is an actor with over 20 years of experience, as well as a professional sales training consultant for the health and fitness industry. He's an advocate for unfiltered and independent thinking, and we're looking forward to hearing your perspectives today and your insights on today's program. Today, I'd like to introduce to you a new member of our panel, Andrew Filichicchia. Andrew is a graduate of the William Esper Studio School of Acting. He's an actor, music lover, and retired U.S. Army serviceman. Andrew, at the end of this program, you'll be able to add guest commentator to your IMDb and LinkedIn profiles. All righty, well, let's jump right into our discussion with the first topic. How can drug addiction be effectively prevented? Shalon, let's start off with you.
All right, thank you, JR. It's great to be back. I think I'm going to focus on education and access when we talk about drug addiction. If we cannot prevent anything if the people do not have the education. And I feel like in our society, our main media outlets do not educate our people. If we talk about properly informing adults of the effects of drug use itself, not only the physiological effects, but the social effects and the financial effects. Then if they have the information, then it becomes a choice. And so adults, as they make choices to use drugs, will have the information and can make that choice on their own. Many times, if we think about education for the youth, those programs prove to be effective and definitely show that there's some intervention there as well. And we talk about access to drugs. Drug addiction sometimes does start with being prescribed a legally controlled substance. Person takes the drug for a while and then becomes physiologically addicted to the drug itself. And so if there is tight control on the access there, then, we can intervene in that aspect as well. Access is more difficult to manage when it's illegal drugs that we are talking about. And due to multiple avenues for manufacturing and distribution, there needs to be interventions there as well.
Thank you, Shalon. So what do you think, Jason?
I think you make a very good point about legal versus illegal drugs and that dynamic. But I think the key term is prevention. I mean, oftentimes, unfortunately, when someone's addicted, it's often too late at that point. So you're facing an uphill battle, oftentimes a lifelong battle. And I found an interesting statistic: 74% of everyone that gets addicted by drugs, it occurs before they're 17 years old. So the key is early treatment, early prevention. And I think the key is understanding why. Why are they getting addicted to start with? Why are they being drawn or attracted to drugs? So what are the psychological and environmental factors that would attract someone to drug addiction or just being interested or curious about it? Escape, avoidance, boredom oftentimes, lack of mentorship, lack of family, experimentation, trauma. So there's a lot of the peer pressure that's fitting in. But I think really what it comes down to is we don't talk enough about the consequences of drugs. We often glamorize, and when you watch TV shows, kids see the glamour, the pleasure. They don't see the pain, the destruction. So all we need to do is show the real raw consequences of the families that are involved, of the people that are involved. It's not edgy. It's trashy. It's not cool. It destroys people's lives. And I think it comes back to what so many problems come back to, which is strong parenting, strong family values. I remember when I was growing up, my dad used to say to me, first of all, it was like every week, don't do drugs, boy. Don't do drugs. But then he would say to me, he'd say, look, you don't have to worry about the drugs killing you, because if I ever find out that you're taking drugs, I'm going to do that for you. So that was enough for me. I was never interested in drugs after that. So I think there needs to be more of that tough love.
I can just see it, Jason.
Yeah. I didn't do it. I was never curious after that. It must have worked.
Andrew, what do you think in terms of most effective ways to prevent drug addiction? What's your idea?
Heady topic. I don't have a background in this, but as we just heard, my background growing up was personal responsibility. We left the house. My dad said, no drinking, no smoking, no kissing. He meant it, right? Focus on what you're supposed to be focused on. You're going to school. We have our faith, and we have an intact family. I think a huge, huge problem is a lack of intact families, a lack of God being spoken about openly. We can't bring that up in school now. So then we take it a step further. Well, there's no morality. Well, as long as what you're doing doesn't hurt anyone else, it's okay. I can't wrap my head around that. We have to get back to, it's not about me. It's about the people I'm with. It's about my neighbor. It's not about my ego. It's about, I'm a child of God. I'm here to serve. How can I serve? If I am focused on that, I'm probably not even going to think about drugs, right? Because I know God doesn't want that of me. So the harm to society, right? That's not a challenge because, as we heard, I'm not interested in that. I'm not even considering that. But not everybody has that faith. Again, we can't even speak about that openly. So in the schools, kids have to hear that. It's critical that they hear that they see the effects of that it's not allowed to be aggrandized in the media, TikTok or whatever, social media. Things that are pushed on kids, their brains aren't fully developed. We have to start when they're young.
Very good discussion. We're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at what we think are the most effective treatments for drug addiction. We'll be right back. And we're back. In this block, we're going to share opinions on what we think are the most effective treatments for drug addiction. And we're going to go to Jason first.
Thank you, JR. I think in terms of, now I'm not an expert. This is not my area of expertise, but I think it makes sense to me that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach for any particular situation. It's based on the individual. You have to tailor the needs to the person's individual psychological profile. But there needs to be understanding of emotionally why they're having that need to do drugs or why they got on drugs to start with. The psychological factors we talked about, like stress, experimentation, peer pressure, what have you. And then I think it becomes about, well, it's like if you're going to a gym and you're a smoker. How do we get the person off of cigarettes? That's an addictive drug. Well, if you put them on a treadmill, how long are they going to do cigarettes after that? So you replace a bad habit with a good one. There's got to be something to fill that void. And I'll give you a good example. I don't know if anyone's familiar with, obviously there's a lot of rock stars. Duff McKagan for Guns N' Roses. He had a notorious addiction to drugs and alcohol. And what he did was he hit rock bottom. I think it's probably the key, unfortunately. Hit rock bottom, and then he went into martial arts. That became this positive, powerful filler of that void. And so he no longer needed that. He replaced that pain with the pleasure of getting in shape, of having a mentor, a very strong sensei. And I think, whether it's sports, whether it's martial arts, whether it's a mentorship, positive people, positive mentality. And then you have to replace that void, that addiction with something else that's positive. And so we have to create a society of viable options and alternatives, whether it's sports, publicly accessible resources. And I think that's the key.
Good, very good points, Jason. Very good points. Andrew, what do you have? Effective ways to treat drug addiction.
Yeah, it's I don't know the medical term. Unfortunately, we have kids that are born to mothers that were on drugs, and so whatever that category is, it's the child is already in their system. They haven't developed properly, and so they're immediately at risk, if not guaranteed to try drugs or whatever. I don't know. But their development is messed up. And so how do we stop that? Education in the community. Again, when these people are younger and you have young people having babies. And again, why are they doing that? Do they have a mother and a father telling them not to do that? Do they have a basis in morality?
Treatments.
So I guess my brain goes to before. This is like pre-treatment, but removing that stigma. And I think a big part is getting people willing to say, I've got a problem, and we need the funding for that, right? I don't think this is an area where we speak about it openly enough and fund it to the point that, oh, hey, I know there's help for me. I think it's really tough.
Sean,
Yes, to Jason's point, Jason touched on a few things that I was going to talk about, but certainly a comprehensive, individualized treatment plan is really what is needed for people that are addicted. If they contain diagnostic outline, a problem statement where it is identified what the problem is, goals and objectives that are tailored specifically to the patient themselves, will prove to push that patient along in their recovery process. Okay. Also, having appropriate interventions that are ready and available for that patient if a practitioner was going to need to intervene, and then also monitoring and evaluating that patient as they go through therapy is also critical in their success. Medication-assisted therapy, also known as MAT or MAT, those treatment programs utilize medications to help the patient work through therapy. And medications such as buprenorphine, also known as a mixture with naloxone, is Suboxone. And that has been proven to effectively treat opioid use disorder, as well as decrease the amount of overdoses that patients are seeing. Those types of clinics and therapies do require medical personnel that are licensed to distribute as well as prescribe. And those patients that are in that type of therapy are very much controlled and seen often. So having those types of therapies will certainly be effective in treatment of addiction.
That's a lot of great information. And I'm not just it sounds like I'm just saying that. No, you're absolutely right on in terms of what people in recovery experience, or to get them into recovery, those kinds of protocols, those treatments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good information. And time for go backs.
For me, I've listened to you speak of well, there's so many factors. There's the psychological factors, the physiological factors, and then again, there's no one size fits all approach. So it's very interesting. Yeah, not my area of expertise, so it's interesting to hear you say that.
Well, and as a nurse, I'm sure sounds like you've been more than exposed to these kind of things. Again, I think we have to shut off that access. So we have the ability to do more treatment, I think, effectively. If there's so much access, how do you fight that? Are there going to be treatment centers in every tiny town like there used to be a butcher? I don't know. I hate it for those people that might have been an education thing, or it might have been an escape, or they didn't have the right venue to point themselves toward and got involved. So the treatment, I think we have to have more openness and funding for that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. We didn't solve the problem here, but some very good ideas and good information. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at what our panelists' ideas are related to how society can reduce the stigma and improve the reintegration of individuals recovering from addiction. And we'll be right back. And we're back. In our final block, we'll look at drug addiction from a different angle. How can society reduce the stigma and improve the reintegration of individuals recovering from addiction? Andrew, you're better up.
Okay. Again, complicated. I think we have to be, as I said, I think we have to be more open about these things. I'm not better than you. When I hear that you have this challenge, everybody's probably got some sort of addiction to something at varying levels. So I think a willingness to talk about it in a judgment-free zone, if you will. Both the people learning about this, because we need to know more about it, I can't just go, oh, well, you did X or you've got this problem, loser. It's not that easy. It is nowhere near that easy. As I talked about before, what about someone that is predisposed to this because of when they were in the room? So I think having a lot more education, a lot more information out there. What happened when we used to have infomercials? Well, I don't know, the after school stuff. It's like kids heard things. What happened to that where we openly talk about this and say, this is a problem and show the ugly side of it? We're willing to show kids all kinds of things. Why not this? Why not be open? We're teaching them about sex way too early. We should be warning them about these things. And then they know, hey, this is not good. They also know, don't be judgmental. You're not better than anyone. So it's not a deep, dark secret. We're more open about it. We're willing to talk about it. And I think that goes a long way, getting people talking.
Mm-hmm. Shawan, what do you say?
Yes. So I think if we look at drug addiction as it falls into the overall umbrella of drug use disorder, that opens it up so that we're not just focused on one type of addiction. Addiction is primarily referred to as the physiological effects of what the substance does to the body. So if we look at the overall umbrella of substance use disorder, then I think that opens it up to help non-users understand that this is an actual disorder and it's not just focused on the addiction itself. It's multifactorial. There are many different causes of addiction. We know genetics is incorporated into that, the person's environment that they came from, to any childhood experiences, as well as what the actual drug does to the brain itself. So if we are accepting of that as a societal pressure or lack of societal pressure, then I think that allows non-users to put themselves in a drug user's shoes. Also, the education of these points further supports acceptance from a non-user standpoint as well. And then also fighting the battle itself. We know drug addiction is a lifetime battle for people, and anything can set them off. It could be something as simple as being overwhelmed, or the perception of defeat that can make them backslide or relapse. So I think we have to be kind in that aspect as well as in understanding.
Jason, what do you think?
Understanding, to our point, everyone knows someone has been touched by addiction if they haven't been addicted to some themselves. I think we were talking about it before. Everyone's addicted to something. I'm addicted to pasta and ice cream. Right? We're all addicted to something. You think that's easy, but it's not. I battle with it every day. And I think stigma, so it's really about empathy. Stigma prevents honesty, prevents communication. It shuts down healing. So rather than judge, we should almost be thankful that, hey, look, maybe I didn't grow up in that environment. I should be thankful for that. Let me try to understand where this person's coming from. And to seek to understand and address the why. Why are they here? So that we can find this person a solution or a society a solution. It doesn't mean to avoid solutions. It doesn't mean to coddle individuals. It means to understand so that we can help, not pass judgment. Also, I think one thing that we talked about a little bit is it's not always the dirty drug dealers selling kids drugs on the corner of a school somewhere. It is people get addicted to painkillers, for example. Remember Brett Favre, the Hall of Fame quarterback, unfortunately. But back in the day, he had an injury, tried to recover, got on painkillers. I remember sort of judging him at the time. And then when I heard years later an interview with him and I heard his story about what happened, I was like, oh, wow, that could happen to anyone. Mm-hmm. You get on it and so something you're physiologically addicted to it. You didn't intend to be. And you have to have empathy for something like that. How easy it can happen to someone or your family member. And I also think part of the solution is education system needs to promote. We've all said it. Provide resources to spread the word. I mean, there's there's different skills for adolescents. There's also things like a friend of mine has a play called Alex's Story. It's about addiction. And it's touching. People come in there, they cry. They know somebody that's been touched by addiction. And I think it really helps people. And if you're a student and you see the consequences, that's going to stick with you. Just little small things like that make a big difference.
Yep. And there are lots of programs out there that help people get back on their feet, leave those addictions behind or resolve them, get into recovery. As you said, it's an ongoing thing, and I think that sponsorship is an important thing too. Yeah. So, but we got a minute or two for some go bags. Thoughts?
I think I would echo what Frank said with when we were younger, we would come home to commercials, things like that would say, like, I don't remember.
This is your brain on drugs.
This is your brain on drugs.
Parsons.
Yes.
Nancy Reagan.
Absolutely. I think we need that.
Yeah. I looked at it, I was like, oh, it doesn't look like I don't want that. Yeah. I agree.
Right. It's that communication again. It's about being open about it, being honest. Oh, well, we don't want to scare kids. Look at the garbage that's out there for them. Be honest about this.
Do scare them.
Well said, everybody. And this is a hot topic. It's close to home, more than perhaps some others. And as we close today, I want to thank each of you for your time today, and thank you too that joined in on this show for this thoughtful exploration of issues that shape our nation and our values. Remember, it's through respectful dialogue and a steadfast commitment to our principles that we can navigate the complexities of our times. Stay tuned. Future programs will tackle more consequential social issues, including border security, partisan cooperation, religious freedom, and education. Goodbye for now from the Coffeehouse, where every conversation is a step towards a brighter, more grounded tomorrow.
The Coffeehouse tour has been sponsored by Jiffy Images, residential and commercial real estate photography, and Odyssey America Media. For a printed transcript of the Coffeehouse tour, send $1 and a self-addressed envelope to Dreamshot Films, 4580 Fair Valley Drive, Fairfax, Virginia 22033.